All right, thank you, and everyone who joins and listens to the Internet of Value Foundation New York, episode 85. And for all of those who listen to this information in the future, I hope you find it as valuable as I know I do every day from the diverse amount of mindsets and perspectives that come in here and share their information on these theoretical topics and fictional topics that we speak about in here. But welcome to the space, everyone. Dazzling, Shellfish, NTO, NY, Sarah, Virgil. If anybody would like to come up and speak, I have some topics. I threw some stuff already up top in the bubble, and I'm going to start speaking on some of those topics in a little bit. But please feel free if anybody would like to ask any questions or speak on anything.
Well, this should be a pretty good space here. It's not about XRP, so nobody will be fighting. So this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, not specifically topics towards XRP today. Correct. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to bring up flat Earth, I'm sure we could throw some gloves down if you want.
Spoke too soon.
Welcome up, though, Dazzling, and NY.
GM, everyone. I haven't had my coffee yet, so I've still got to kind of kick into the motion of things. But yeah, I'll get there.
Making a cup of tea as we speak.
So what's on the screen today? What are you planning to speak about there, Mr. Ranger?
NTO, what's your favorite topic that's hashtagged at the top?
Sorry about that. So topics today was, I'm going to keep it somewhat on the train. Last space, we spoke a little bit about the concept and thought of a society that is post-monetary means of incentives behind the interactions that we have occurring every single day. And so the thought of the way that we have monetary value in the form of money today not needing to exist. I'm going to take it a little bit step further today and go into a space-faring civilization of that concept being able to be realized much more closer to like what you would think of as like a Star Trek kind of concept. Because as we spoke about it last time, we really talked about it in the means of just existing on the terrestrial plane of Earth. That included, there was two things I wanted to touch on. One being fusion technology itself, thermonuclear rockets to be particular, and just fusion thermal reactors. Some new stuff, a nice little video that I had up top, which is an exotic approach to nuclear fusion that's being done, and talk about the new Nobel Prize winners that won the Nobel Prize for the attosecond spectroscopy. That'll be what I at least would like to touch on today.
Would also be interested to go into a little more into what the quantum computing will do in the future, how it will disrupt the financial market and everything else with the AI. I mean, those are good. Those are great subject, great topics to talk about. I mean, we're living in the precipice of who knows what's going to happen here in 10, 15 years from now. So this is all pretty cool. Having people who actually are interested in things like that and not just day-to-day work and just to get the money.
I completely agree, NTO. Dazzling, though, I think you unmuted before, man. If you would like to speak, and then I'll go into his NTO gave me a pathway, at least from my brain right now. So, but.
Oh no, totally okay. I was as you were away from the mic, I just asked NTO to fill the dead air. That I was curious to know what your favorite topic was, hashtag top, but I think you just answered it. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, so going to AI. So when I think of AI, I don't like the word artificial intelligence being combined together. I don't think anything is artificial. Just the fact that if there is anything that exists in our material world and our reality, then that means that by nature, the atomic assimilations of that material and electromagnetic frequencies interacting with each other was possible. And so, but maybe you could think of it as augmented intelligence, I like to think of them as smart tooling sets, really, as we have them today, like machine learning and different neural networking capabilities, video editing capabilities, audio editing capabilities, and smart diagnostic tools. But going to a particular thing. So one of the things I posted above top, right, these experiments run on these Quantum's H2 trapped ion processors. So they recently, uh, you know, yielded landmark results that quantum physics have been chased for more than 30 years. This kind of realization of the ability to not only need a quantum computer with quantum processors that are able to process information extremely fast in the form of qubits, basically photons, light particles that are able to transmit data and be processed, but also be able to have these operations be realized. So photons, electrons interacting with other electrons, and from the notion of quantum entanglement, be able to have an interaction that occurs in one point in time, and have another interaction reaction that occurs because of that. In a computational means I have a chip in my phone and there's a quantum computer somewhere else in the world, and some sort of computation that gets done on that quantum computer near instantaneously creates an occurrence of an action that occurs on my quantum chip. And so going to what you were thinking there, NTO, yeah, a very crucial part of this interlaying web of interoperability that will need to occur for our species to get this next step of progression past this inflection point of all of these technologies developing is this this definite state of actionable awareness of all of this computation that's being done.
How do you think that's going to be incorporated? Like, it would be really interesting to see what a human being is actually going to be like here in 1,000 years from now, here with all this technology being built, and they're looking at implementing it somehow, some way into humans. They've already I think it was Switzerland. They already got some of them are already wearing chips in their hands, so they can open doors and things like that here. Um, this is actually pretty scary. I mean, it takes humanity to a whole different level. And are you really human once you start interacting that close with AI, with all the quantum mentality that's out there? I mean, this is kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be scary, especially if you overwhelm yourself with things that you can't control, wanting to control them. I would say this though: I don't really believe that most people are human beings, at least today. I think we're more so on the Homo sapien side, and that really just referring to like the definitive means of like a human being is a Homo sapien that has advanced enough to understand the awareness of its tool sets and utilize them. Yes, we all use phones, but it's like how many of us are really using our phone, or really know what we're doing when we use our phone. But the inflection point I think we're at. You made an interesting statement. The 1,000 years. I think even 15 years from now, NTO, 20 years from now, the species looking back won't be able to really recognize what exists today, at least as identity wise.
Well, you really think within that short of a span?
Yeah, I do, and so it goes to a couple things that some industry leaders have said, and then some other things technology wise that I think will develop very soon. But we got some hands, so I want to be kind to them at least, and then I'll come back onto it. Shellfish though and dazzling. Please go ahead, guys.
Dazzling was first.
Thank you. So with it moving forward with AI in particular, I just want to share this because this just threw me off my feet yesterday. I got GPT-4V, which the V stands for vision, and I started just taking photos and uploading photos and just drawing stuff upon it in the prompts, and I was just completely blown away. I mean, this thing's got eyes now, can literally see, and I'm still speechless with some of the stuff that it came back to me with. But things are moving at such a quick rate. I mean, we can't keep up. This is, and when you say scary, NTO, I get what you mean by scary, but it's also exciting at the same time. But yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Are you on a bike there, Dazzling? Are you doing your workout or what?
No, I'm out walking.
And Tio, I just
Caught me on a hill.
I just wanted to put out there how scary it must have been for somebody to get a pacemaker put in for the first time, or a insulin pump. There's so many different technologies that we've already been incorporating in, and if we do have something integrated in with our brain, which is just another organ inside of our body, that's making it more efficient, more streamlined. I think people will acclimate to it quicker, and once they see the first few developing, I don't know, they're organizing their lives better in all fields. I think people will kind of jump on board, just like we all have our cell phones. Everything's scary in the beginning, but it'll catch on, I think, in the general population.
In regards to the insulin pump here, Shellfish, yeah, I can speak on that. Most definitely. My wife has an insulin pump here. She also has sensors in it and everything. I mean, it's like she's back in the days, a bionic woman here. But I mean, yeah, there's sensors throughout here. I mean,
Well, is she a robot,
you know,
NTO? Are you scared that she's gonna come in and take over your house? Because it's not really. I mean, technically, she's part cybernetic.
she's already taken over the house.
Well, I mean, I must say.
I'm the slave here. She's the boss. Just kidding. But
as long as you recognize as the superior half of the species, I accept your apology.
yeah, so I'm thinking maybe there's maybe AI is already here. Kidding.
And so going back to my reasoning before on why I think even 20 years from now, NTO, that the possibility of looking back from an identity standpoint and a sociological standpoint would be so significantly different. It more so, I'll use the example from this industry leader meeting that was happened the other day. Was the Prime Minister of China, some people from OpenAI, and Elon Musk, and they were up there talking about AGI and kind of gave their own little thoughts of timelines on when they think there'll be some sort of general intelligence system that exists on computational wise. And in this interesting notion, every one of them agreed by 2030 that there would be some sort of general intelligence database system that existed, or AGI as everybody likes to coin it. And it falls in line very much so with my belief system that between 2027 and 2032, this inflection point of the ability for computationally data to not only be able to be processed, but distributed and processed, and then have applications that can utilize that information. I think things like materials that exist today, the ability to break down molecules themselves and create materials and chemicals thermodynamics. I mean, you name it, from quantum mechanics, bringing it all the way to the theory of relativity. So, from the very small subatomic frequencies interacting with each other to the actual actions that we witness on our third dimensional reality realm. I think all of this, from an application standpoint, is going to be way more accessible, and this information is going to be right at our fingertips. And what that allows is such a fast flywheel effect of the progression of things to just move so much faster than they ever have before. It's just like, the internet. If you ask somebody 100 years ago if they thought that you and I would be able to speak to each other across the world near instantaneously from just the push of a button, they would have just burnt you at the stake. Because, I mean, well, 100 years ago they wouldn't have burnt you at the stake, but maybe 250 years ago you might have got burnt at the stake actually for saying something like that.
So, Deathrange, you're going to kill me, but you posted about the fusion engines, and on the same website, I think it was Helion, they had a magnetic, oh God, how did I say it? Magnetic hydrodynamic engine for the water. And it was, I guess, it's like the sister of fusion engines, but for like submarines and stuff like that. And I just started thinking, I'm like, okay, so they get into space with fusion engines, but then they get to, what was it, Saturn, that has the moon that is mostly ocean, like an ocean based. So is it possible to like utilize the engine going back and forth? Like if you start out as a fusion, can the same engine be a hydrodynamic, what is it, magnetic hydrodynamic engine? Like, can they flip back and forth, or do you have to have two separate engines, like two separate rockets, basically?
Well, no. So fusion is the fusing or binding of atoms, right? And through that fusing and binding of atoms, you get a contrast, a compression of the opposite direction, so outwards, and that creates energy flow. Hydrogen, right, or hydrogen fusion. I mean, you're just using that particular chemical, those atoms, to be broken down, to be used to combine the atoms together to then try and get an electrical current out of it. And so this is where fusion becomes so questionable, is because it's like, okay, so what molecules do we fuse together? And so from these fusing of molecules together, what is the reaction of them? How long can we bind them together? What's the energy output from binding them together? What's the cost of getting these chemicals and then putting them into the system just to create all of this energy flow?
Very cool. So once it's developed, it's not that far off from just utilizing what elements they have at their disposal, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like the video I have posted above of the particular exotic approach to the nuclear fusion, right? They're using the helion 3 and the deuterium, and that's the atoms that they are broken down and combining and then pushing into a plasma field, and then using magnets. They're compressing and expanding the actual plasma field, and from the compression outwards of the plasma field is when the generators inside of the fusion reactor are picking up electrons and then turning that into energy that can then be used in something like the grid. But deuterium, don't get like what's a deuterium. Deuterium is literally just a different isotope of hydrogen. And so an isotope is a different electron to proton ratio inside of an atom, and you can almost think of it as like throwing the atom off of balance, and it creates a positive electrical charge by creating this differential between protons, electrons, and neutrons inside of the atom. And so deuterium just being this particular weighted isotope of hydrogen. And so if you have hydrogen, you can make deuterium as long as you have a processing unit to do so.
Very cool. Thank you for that breakdown.
Shellfish, by the way, the Saturn, does they have a moon with the whole ocean on it, you said?
Oh, that's where I was going to jump in. It's Titan, and I believe it's liquid methane. Am I correct, Dev?
The Saturn itself is a couple chemicals, but yeah, methane I think being a very large one, which is one of the reasons why you wouldn't there's no necessarily substance. It's like a big ball of cloud of gas. You'd literally fall to the center of it until the density crushed you. Sasha, though, man, welcome up. Please feel free to jump.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Death. I actually wanted to hear from the speaker panel or anybody who could contribute a little more knowledge to the Nobel Prize in Chemistry Award being handed out this week, and how it might affect like the conversations we've had and have come to like exchange information, because it from my understanding, it delved into the quantum world pretty significantly in the studying of attoseconds and the exchange of light on a quantum level, and how that can, I guess, be accessed via the electrons, and I guess on a more accessible level. It's related to quantum dot technology, which has been a technology in televisions for some time now, but I never nosedived into it like I did this week because of its relation to more nanotechnology applications and future moving stuff. So I'm just curious to hear if anybody has any interpretations of what's been accessed via these studies that these three folks were working on and got awarded the Nobel Prize for.
Wow. So thank you very much, Sasha, for bringing me into that. It's something. There's a lot of different things that could have and should have got Nobel Prizes, right? Things for like discoveries of exoplanets and different protein folding methodologies, and but this particular one is super interesting from a quantum mechanical standpoint, because just like you said, and I put it up top also for all of those who want to know what an attosecond is. An attosecond is 10 to the negative 18th seconds, and so to try and computationally think about how fast that actually is in the brain is just like it's really unfathomable how much of a quickness to near instantaneous it was. But so using a specific methodology of shooting timed lasers through particular chemical gases, they are able to try and detect the difference between atomic structures going from one place of time to the next. So, movement through time, right? The actual interaction of atoms themselves. And now, before this discovery came about, um, the I think the closest that we were able to get to view or to theoretically view an interaction was in femtoseconds. And comparably to an attosecond, I should actually get what a femtosecond is, but it is. Let me see if I have it written down right here. No, I don't have it written down. It is also a very, very quick unit of time, but not nearly as quick as an attosecond is.
Man, you should have known this.
Yeah, femtosecond, right? How many 10 to the negative? I think it's 10 to the negative 14th, but I might be wrong, and I don't want to say and be wrong.
Honestly, whatever you would probably say, people would say, yeah, that's true.
You're probably not wrong. I mean, it's an interesting methodology of the way that we try and measure how fast. Okay, so sorry. So by starting with the femtosecond laser and compressing the pulses and then passing those pulses through a noble gas, which is just a chemical gas, using extreme ultraviolet lights, the pulses can be generated at attosecond level speeds. So combining multiple laser pulses that are occurring simultaneously. So this enabled scientists to probe the behavior of individual electrons within atoms. And so before this discovery came about, I think it was the largest interaction that was able to be viewed was two atoms interacting with each other, if I am not mistaken off the top of my head. We have we are able to break it down to view the actual electrons interacting within the atom itself. So in a single atom, we can view electrons interacting with inside of it. And so this was given the Nobel Prize, and in particular, Anne L. Hewlery is the one of the scientists who, and her work was the leading work that led to this discovery becoming a possibility.
Yeah, and I think this is going to help in like all the semiconductor research that's been going on and been on the forefront of people's minds in these realms. It's going to help encourage that as well. And I inadvertently combined, because I read both of, I guess I read from a website that kind of jumbled it all together, but I inadvertently added the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, which is strangely correlated to the Nobel Prize in Physics, into my dialogue. So sorry if I confused you a little bit as to like which topic to address there. But yeah, there were 2 Nobel Prizes awarded in very congruent sectors of scientific research this week. One on the topic of attoseconds and one on the topic of quantum dots. But they both interplay with each other. Maybe that'll be next year's Nobel Prize. So yeah, thanks for elaborating a little bit more.
You know, you're very right, Sasha. That's why I found it so interesting, because there was a lot of similarity between the actual Nobel Prizes this year, where it's not like you had one for astronomy, you know, one for chemical material production. Like, you know, it was really like all kind of fell in line with like similar industry things that can interact with each other. Where, okay, so if I'm going to put, say, I want to use the ideal of a quantum dot to create a substance that I can put through somebody's body, and from running that through your body, I can uh, pretty much understand the entire lining of the vein structure inside of your body, see where clogs are, where you might be having some sort of issues, things like that, because of the speed of the blood flow, tracking the quantum dot. And then I can break it all the way down to knowing how to build a really nicely made architecturally nanobot, because I have this ability to know how to interact with these particular electrons on such an atomic scale. So yeah, well, definitely playing into each other in part.
Yeah, man. The way you're describing it, it's kind of like LIDAR for a quantum level of understanding our anatomy. And that can be revolutionary in a lot of ways.
Wow, LIDAR with quantum level precision. I really like it.
You said it, man.
You created it in my brain. I should say you generated it in my brain. Shellfish, go ahead.
So if we are utilizing AI from a hive mind Neuralink perspective, and we're coming up and generating these things, is it really like our idea, or is it a collective idea like you and Sasha just created with the LiDAR and the tech? Like as a gift for all humanity, instead of saying I created it, is it more like ours as a species now? Like, can we get to that point?
Well, that's why I changed from my term from when I said I
No,
created ET
no,
generated it, because
yeah,
that
yeah.
exact
I didn't
concept.
mean you. I didn't mean you, like in particular. I just meant like as we progress forward as a species, like in general, like.
Yeah, it's that's
Yeah.
the concept, at least. I mean, that's at least my thought on it is it's inevitably it's a collective, right? And so you have a very small portion of that collective that actually does the changes that then incentivizes the others to want to participate, and then that is a collective societal change or sociological change that takes hold on all. But I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's in accordance with some pre-established laws of how systems work. Price's law specifically illustrates that, you know, if you have a room of 100 people, 10 of them, the square of any number, are going to contribute the majority of the work and effort put forth towards that endeavor. So, and the other, like the remainder, the 90 people in that situation, they would contribute equally, but it'll be on a distilled level. And you know, to answer Shellfish's question about like idea generation and how It's more of a synthesis process. In machine learning, there's a term that I've been sort of very interested in the last year or two. It's called federated learning. It applies to the way that you train AI from like a community sense, where you have a bunch of AI agents as opposed to like one large nebulous AI. But it's when you combine it with like reinforcement feedback, they all bounce off of one another, kind of like lasers do. So there's that interplay as well. And you can get more fine-tuned granular data extraction from a federated approach to learning about a specific topic. So that's to say, if we all have like one topic in these IOV discussions and we all contribute our knowledge, then the feedback we're going to get back from one another is going to fill in all of the like holes that we might be missing when we're interpreting it on our own. And I always seem to be in grocery stores when I'm in these rooms.
It's okay. You buy those groceries. We're the think tank behind the grocery purchases. Though, but selfish that definitely that collective mentality is definitely a very important way to look at it too, though, for sure, because without that awareness of understanding that the actions that we make will have the reactions that interact with all the other reactions that interact with all the other people in our sociological means, definitely very important. And going back to the thought of like this quantum dot, from a nanoscale perspective and a nanobot perspective, having quantum processor chips that we know from an attosecond spectropical setting, that the atoms that are making up this semiconductor inside of this nanobot is particularly designed to be able to create a nanobot that then could go off and possibly create more nanobots that could create these semiconducting transmitters of electrical currents with this precision is like pair that with an AI smart tooling set, or an intelligent smart tooling set that can break down the materials and the chemical compounds themselves, and then attach that to the internet, where you have all of the data of humankind for the last 2,000 years. I think just those like kind of simple concepts themselves give way to such an awakening that could occur.
I'm just sitting relishing in that idea right now. I'm sorry. I have nothing to say. I think it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, and so I also posted that video up top. I think the one that you had mentioned before about the nuclear thermal rockets.
Oh no, the ones that you know what? It was on the same channel. I think I'll post it up there. The one that I was talking about, the magnetic ones. Is that what you're talking about? The magnetic hydro? Yeah. Let me get it.
No, the one I posted behind up top is a concept based on thermal ion propulsion. So, taking hydrogen, breaking the ionizing the hydrogen, and using that ionized gas as nuclear propulsion. And the argument is today is we can't create strong enough magnets, right? We don't have enough magnetized systems to be able to create a polarity difference where, it's like interesting when you start thinking about fusion in general. If we were to just be able to create magnets that, through a sequence of events of chemicals being pushed from one vacuum chamber to the next, or one chamber to the next chamber, if we were able to create magnets that could truly create polarities of differences in factors of great magnitudes, I mean, we could fuse atoms together like no other. It's just really learning how to not only build those magnets, but build a core where you could have this magnetized structure and these plasmal units of atoms interacting with each other without either creating an explosion, or B, even just creating the walls to contain that sort of power and heat, and then pull that out and then use it somewhere else. Although I do think that diamonds is going to be a huge category going forward in the next 10 years when we start talking about batteries and lasers.
They use diamonds and lasers. That
What was that?
in batteries, you said?
Yes. I think I caught most of what you said though. Are you able to use diamonds in batteries? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I thought that was what I heard you said, but that
Yeah,
didn't make
yeah. So
sense to me.
these laser ion charged diamond molecules can be great usages of isotopes that could be used to store large capacities of energy and for thousands of years. I mean, estimated like some of these batteries could last for 5 to 10,000 years and have the ability to have full charges the entire time.
Wow, I haven't heard that before. I have to go check. Can you put up some links to that on the top death so we can check further into it?
I definitely have a really great one. Actually, let me go look for it. I might have posted it a couple days ago. But yeah, it was an actual battery that it was coming out soon too. Oh, perfect! I found it already. All right, so one concept. So taking graphite shielding from a nuclear power plant, scrape off the layer of carbon-14 that's formed via the neutron bombardment from the atomic radiation, and compress this along with the carbon-12 into a diamond. So diamonds can convert radiation directly into electrical current, something that was first proposed in 2016 in the University of Bristol. So the half-life of carbon-14 is about 5,700 years, and it decays, emitting a low-energy electron which bounces around the surrounding carbon-12 diamond crystal lattice, generating an electrical hole pair, and so which creates a small electrical current. So from the carbon-14, you get usable energy, and then nickel-14, a stable isotope. You can take 1 gram of carbon-14, which would produce 15 joules of energy per day at an operating volt of 2 volts. And so, for reference, an IoT mesh network that sends 12 bytes every hour consumes about 0.10 joules per day. So, one single gram diamond battery could power 150 mesh network nodes for about 5,000 years. And that's just estimated based off of the obviously electrical current in this example. And so why does it make sense? Well, there are 250,000 tons of irradiated graphite shielding containing carbon-14 from the world's nuclear power facilities already today. So we've already created a ton of this shielding material just by creating waste from the nuclear power plants that we already have.
For some
Wow,
reason,
thanks so much, Death, for clearing that up.
Death Ranger, I feel like there was like a surplus of diamonds on the surface of Mercury. Is that true? Like, I think I remember reading that.
I'm not sure if on the surface of Mercury, but there is a planet. What is it? BP-2104, something like that. I got to look it up again, but it's estimated to be an entire diamond. I mean, it is a planetary core diamond, and it's encased in a methane surface. And so the most interesting thing about it is it looks theoretically like matty black in outer space, and so it's almost visually impossible to pick up. However, the star that it's rotating around, we think is pulling it at such a mass and velocity rate that it's bending this diamond shaped planet in weird oval shapes, and so it creates a weird blockage of light from the sun, and so that's how we think what it is and its makeup of theoretically the chemical compounds of what it could be.
So theoretically, what would happen if that sun hit that diamond and like focused as?
Oh, it is.
I mean, it would be a laser, right?
It
Like,
has a death wish. It won't be around for, I think it's like an estimated another 90 million years. It'll be dead or something. It'll eventually fly into its sun, just like we will eventually fly into our sun. I should say our planet at least.
But would it hyper focus that star's light like a laser, or would it do more like a disco ball? It's like, I know that sounds really silly, but how would the sun interact with a diamond planet? Does that sound like a really stupid question? I'm sorry. I'm picturing like how you have light that like forms rainbows and stuff. So like how would that? What was here before? That'll be another question for another room. Sorry. She has a God question for you, but we'll talk about that another time.
Rainbows are as you're viewing different wavelengths of light that's being pushed through H2O, but yeah, the interaction between it and its sun is no different than our interaction with our sun. I mean, it's just right. A sun is a giant ball of mass of gas as we think it to be, and it is essentially consuming, right, or pulling in everything in its vicinity to it at some sort of rate due to the mass of itself bending space and time. If that answered the question.
Similar to a black hole.
Yeah, similar to a black hole. Yeah, I mean, and we have recent visualization graphics that we have from the James Webb that also say that we think black holes are spinning. So, that notion of like, is a black hole just staying still or is it actually spinning? We do think it may be spinning.
Like a whirlwind, you mean that, or you mean spinning around?
Yeah, spinning around, having a vortex of energy that circles around it. Yeah, and it itself being somewhat of a different integer turn rate.
I looked a little bit into black holes there the other day myself. By the way, the TON 681 or something. Have you looked into that before?
What? Say it again. Which one was it?
TON 618 or something. Yeah, TON's 618. That's one of the biggest black holes there is.
Yeah. Yep. I was like, I knew it. Sounds very familiar to me. And so this interesting notion though of a black hole spinning is because we thought for very long that black holes were such large material masses that it's almost like you fall into it and you just fall, right? You theoretically fall forever of eternity because there's no way out of a black hole. I also think the notion of white holes will eventually come out, or just the kind of polarity difference of the entrance of a black hole, the exit of a black hole, if you really could think of it like that. Where does it start? Where does it end? And I think we're one step closer to that with like that notion of we see it as a spinning integer of mass, and so it's part of the universe, just like everything else seems to be part of the universe, just having a really different molecular makeup of it that is extremely strange to us. Meefs, welcome, man.
Yo, how did y'all get here? How did y'all get to talking about black holes and all that? Because I see y'all, the title of the room is one thing, but how, like, I just want to know what was the origin story? How did y'all get here?
It's actually a great question. Well, we were just talking about uh, we went from a diamond core planet that's covered in methane that we think that we're viewing because of the strange elliptical pull that the star it's circling around has on it, and so the light that it's giving off, we think that would be the possibility of that planet that's there. And then somebody brought up black hole after that, and that's how we got to the black hole. Oh, I don't
You you
remember.
you you started the conversation off about a diamond methane covered planet.
Oh, no, no, we started the conversation about 45 minutes ago. We've
Oh, word. Okay, okay, gotcha. No, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not making no judgment either way. It's actually a pretty cool and almost kind of like arcane thing. But I decided to come up because you were talking about the exit. So, two things to keep in mind or kind of consider, let's just say from a consideration standpoint, because, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to have the technology just yet to like high five a black hole, from like the comfort of our home, but we can at least understand some of the basics in a way of speaking. So, you have black holes that are like singularity, and then you have double singularity black holes. And there's this whole concept of, they used to call it the spaghettification. The whole idea is that if you go into the black hole, basically, if you cross the event horizon is like the point of no return. After this point, nothing escapes, not even light, allegedly. Okay. Um, but there also is the concept of Hawking radiation, which would technically be information about the black hole, from like let's say a physical standpoint, that we can read because of the radiation that is given off by the black hole. So some information can escape a black hole, um, but we just have to have different ways of looking at it. But in terms of the output or where a black hole could be leading to, so you have a black hole just taking in all this matter and light and everything, but then think about a pulsar. Look into pulsars. Those are like constantly beaconing. They're like a lighthouse in a way, but just moving really, really, really fast, So a pulsar could be a sort of like, I don't know, amplification method or circuit in the universe. This is just me purely spitballing. I've never read this anywhere. But there can be sort of like an ebb and flow to these things. A point of ingress and a point of egress. A point where the matter from the universe flows in, and the point where it flows out. So that's all I have to offer, man. I just, like I said, I want to know how we get up here. How we get up to talking about some black holes, man? Because you know, I don't normally hear this being the
Me,
talk of the
me.
town on the Twitter sphere, man, and I love it. I love it.
Actually, it started out with a battery that was coming out possibly that had a diamond in it, and then I was like, "Oh, I think you can mine them on Mercury." And then it was like a planet that's not around our sun that has a diamond around another star system. So that's where we jumped from topic to topic. It was totally me. I always run the train off the tracks, and I apologize, Room.
No, it was great,
Well,
and to bring meets up, so I'm glad. So I always love when meets comes to. Oh, you back up here, Meese? Twitter
Yeah,
room.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't hear shellfish, so I said I'm a go to listener, come back, because Elon makes the best software on the planet. Am I right, everybody? But yeah, yeah. No, I want to hear what you had to say, man. So that's what was up.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I just said that it started out with a diamond battery, and I said that I thought there were diamonds on the surface of Mercury, and then Death said that they found one like a planet that was an actual black diamond around another star in another system, and that's where it spun out of like off the tracks.
Ooh, I don't know if the diamond's black, but that would be really cool.
Crap! Did I just make that up? Maybe that was like a consciousness like that we didn't even know about. Like I just tapped into the universal like that.
No,
is...
it's a theoretical exoplanet that could exist, but it's thought to be a diamond core that has methane gas that's surrounding it, and that's why it's pretty much pitch black. It's like 95% black and dark.
I think it was because we were talking about black holes, and I just meshed the two together.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry. NTO though, man, you got your hand up. Please go ahead, jump in.
Talking about black holes here, something that's always interested me here is, and this might be way off here. I mean, we don't even know if it exists yet. If dark matter also can get swallowed up within that black hole, because apparently anything that's light escapes here. How would dark matter come into something like this, provided it exists, right? And I mean, some people say yes, some people say no.
Yeah, it's like, and you know what? Even NASA says this, right? Dark matter is literally just a term to try and explain the intent of the underlying substance that makes up the majority of the universe that we don't actually know what it is, and how and or how to really interact with it in a meaningful way yet. I'll get this one video I posted not too long ago, actually, from Matt O'Doyle, where with the JWST, we think we've recently also discovered a star that proved our universe to be twice as old as we thought it to be. So not 14 billion years old, but 28 to 30 billion years old. And in that, the star possibly being a dark matter star, which, what is that? It's like crazy, or a dark energy star. But Meese, man, you got your hand up. Go ahead. I'm gonna go grab the video real quick.
Yeah, I just want to kind of state my beef with like dark matter, dude. Because here's the thing: they say that dark matter occupies over 90% of the universe. Meanwhile, you and I were walking, we're talking, we're doing all these things, and nobody ever once has like tripped over dark matter or complained about like dark matter, like slicing their home in half, or we haven't seen like collisions of dark matter in space and all this. So it's clearly, to me, kind of like a fudge factor, if you will. It's like a value or variable we put in place of knowing and understanding until we get to that point. But then there's the flip side. They talk about the dark energy as well. So you got the dark matter and then like the dark energy. But still, I don't really like. I get. I don't know, the sort of the duality that is attempting to be expressed with these ideas. I just don't agree to their rational existence, if you will. Like, building a dark matter airplane or something. But who knows? I could absolutely be totally missing the mark. It could be dark matter craft flying around out there. That could be like the greatest source of energy that we've never really even tapped into. So who knows, right?
I see, and I said it the same seed as you there, Meeps. It's like, you know what? I know that there's like, why is it all dark? All right, if we don't think we can interact with it in a meaningful way, so like, what is it? But like, I don't want to put a word onto it and say like this is that for sure. And I do agree with you. It's like a big question mark on, what exactly is dark matter or dark energy. I had something else I wanted to say, but I completely blanked on it. Shellfish, though, actually, Money Man, you have not spoke yet. You got your hand up. Please feel free to jump in, and then Shellfish.
I think Shellfish had her hand up before me.
I talk a lot, Money. Go for it. Like I would love to hear what you have to say.
Oh, okay. I don't technically have any insight. All I want to do is technically thank everybody in this space because I love these conversations and because I've gotten a new appreciation and a new understanding of a series I've been watching, War of the Worlds, because it focuses on quantum entanglement and dark matter in such a way that before I got into this room, I didn't understand a lot of it. But now that I come in this room and I get educated, I begin to understand a lot more and appreciate a lot more of that very entertaining series. I just wanted to let you guys know
I really appreciate that, money, and the tying together of things from concepts we see, that things that we don't think that are interplay with each other, but then do interplay with each other. I love hearing that, and I love that feeling also when something kind of just clicks, because you were like, I did these 4 steps I didn't realize were steps, but like it led me to this point right here, which is amazing. And I do remember what I was going to say to you though, Meeves. It's more of a philosophical standpoint, not more of a calculated standpoint, because I come from like, if I had to put my finger on what I think dark energy or dark matter is, I consider it this web, this metaphysical web of all of these atomic assimilations of energy that interconnect everything of the universe. So all of reality, basically connected by this web, and we just simply call it dark matter or dark energy because maybe, you know, we we don't have a particular way of knowing how to interact with it in a meaningful way, and so we kind of shush it for the moment with that term. But I don't. It's more philosophical than I can mathematically kind of prove that to be the factor in it. But I think it would be interesting if we were able to ever one day prove that to be a factor, and what that might look like in our universe. And Shellfish, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Well, my question is, so when do they stop counting the age of the universe and just accept it as infinite? I don't know, we've talked about it in spaces before about like the Torah, like the infinite donut, like it just going on forever, right? Like, so now we have a scope that's saying it's 30. What did you say? 32 billion years old?
28 to 30 billion. It's like 28.4 billion years old, give or take a billion years.
I mean, why are we like trying to put a date on it? That's like, can't it just be infinite? Like the numbers, like is it math infinite? Like what? And math is the basis of what we're all built on. Why would it not be the same assumption that our universe is infinite?
Well, it could be, and I do agree with you in the theoretical sense that everything is infinite and potential, and so the universe itself being infinite. We use it as like a reference point, and so we use time to measure space, and so if we're trying to measure distance between space of two objects, we use the reference of time in that, and so we say that's as far back as we can look, and so to us that's the beginning of the universe. Just like it's like, when was the beginning of your life? Well, when you were born. But essentially, if all of the timelines of people and individuals and moments didn't lead up to you being born, you wouldn't have been born. And so it's almost kind of like that, a little somewhat of an analogy. But you're right, it's not like a definitive, this is the beginning of the universe. This is just like, this is as far back as we're able to look right now, and this is as far back as we think that is what we're looking at.
Damn, my brain hurts right now.
That's that neuroplasticity stretch, yoga for the brain.
So let me throw one other thing into this complex equation here. So basically, not that I want to, but I'll do it anyway here. So if God created the universe here, did he also create dark matter?
I would say if the first one is true, then the second one would have to be true, right? I mean, but then it's like questionable. Was there a team effort? I don't know. Like who's if you were to ask me who God is, I would say you're God. I would say I'm God. I would say everybody in the space is God. I would say everything of every particle that exists of everywhere is an assimilation of this reference of God. God to me being God, or generate or destroy, which being the backbone of all of reality itself. Interestingly enough, but Sasha, you got your hand up. I don't want to be rude. Go ahead, man.
I'll keep it short. I think the discussion of light plays heavily into this, not only philosophically but scientifically as well. We actually opened up the conversation, or maybe I just thought that the train of segues originated with the discussion of attoseconds and the study of how light can move on a quantum level, and so to work it back into this larger discussion through mirrors, I guess, is an interesting analogy. We can actually study light on a more granular level on this planet, and we're creating mirrors of perhaps a larger universe out there to reflect back upon our own enlightenment of how things work. We do that on the quantum level. So we mentioned LIDAR earlier, and sort of establishing a quantum roadmap of what our inner workings and our systems might look like on a very, very subatomic level. And we're doing the same thing simultaneously, ironically enough, with the James Webb Telescope. So again, you have that mirror compatibility, that symbiosis of as above, so below, and that correspondence that exists. And I think that can't be ignored in this particular context, because yeah, we are, like you said, Death, we are our own representations of the universe as best as we know it. And so studying ourselves, not only on an anatomical level, but even on an ethereal level, in many regards, is going to enlighten us to understanding the world that we can't access in the physical sense as easily as we would like to.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of hop on that light aspect right quick. I think that like in terms of like a scientific study or domain, optics is like one of those things that we rarely hear discussed, but there's things that are like truly the state of the art taking place within the optical field. And um, if you, let's say, I feel like it's a similar type of problem that we had with AI almost like 8 years ago or whatever, where if you wanted to get into AI at that point, you would have had to more than likely had a background in computer science or been of that sort of mindset. And now it's like we have applications, we have websites, we got all sorts of things. We just kind of go in and bam, 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 you hit it up, and then you can get like really cool stuff to happen without really needing to know all the back end of it, so to speak. And I just think on the optical side, in terms of like light and communications and all this sort of stuff, that it's one of these things that like the closest way, or let me put it like this: the way that we use it in the most purest form would almost be like what is it, like optical cables or optical signals, so like using fiber optics to communicate and all this. But if you look at the scale of what like light can do, even think about it from the standpoint of photons interacting with plants and chloroplast. Like we often might think that the photons are beaming in a very straight line, a very straight, coherent line to the chloroplast site, where ultimately, goes through the whole process and gets converted into chloroplast. But then it's like, no, the photon actually has to do routing before it even gets to the right site. So how does that routing happen? Well, guess what? The plant can leverage the world of the quantum, you know? And there's a number of, let's say, biological domains where it can tap into this, you know what I'm saying? So even not even having to go off into the quantum, let's say, plants even can generate their own photons and then use that as a means of like communication, like send a ping or signal like, hey, are you there? Hey, how far away are you? Kind of thing. Look up biophotons if you want to kind of get into that rabbit hole. That's crazy. And again, it's just these aspects of light that we would normally never really kind of consider, because I don't know, it may be too early for us in the game, collectively speaking, but there's a lot of ground to cover when it comes to using light, representation, and meaning. So I'll just kind of end it there. But yeah, light is one of those untapped reservoirs, man.
I couldn't agree more. And I even going back to like the fusion topic, I think light or just electrons themselves, if we're able to try and recreate antimatter, so anti-electrons and electrons. I could see that being methodologies if we could sustain that in some sort of meaningful way, having some sort of extreme energy output sources that could be like theoretically infinite existing. Sasha, man, welcome back up. Please go ahead. You there, Sasha? Are you guys able to hear him?
I can't.
No, man, I got nothing.
Give him a moment. You can unmute Sasha. Oh, he went down. I'm sure he'll be back in a second.
I'm sorry, I'm having such a slow start to this morning, but I'm absorbing everything, man. This is awesome.
No, don't be sorry. Anything you've listened to that you'd like to ask a question on, or anything you'd like to bring up, Desling?
Hey, Dazzling.
Not at this stage.
I was just
Yes,
gonna say
okay.
I'll give you the answers to the pop quiz. Just sit next to me, okay?
Nice, that's awesome. No, I kind of think like it's all fantastic. Trying to mine the diamonds over there and head over to Titan, maybe throw something into a black hole and see what it does. But I kind of just bring myself back sometimes, and I think, can we just get to the bloody moon again?
Didn't Iran, or not Iran? I'm sorry. Didn't India just touch down on the moon?
Yeah, that's right. They just had a space land, and
Allegedly.
allegedly, yeah, of course.
Did they have with people in it, or was it just a?
Listen, I don't have like really a dog in the fight of, is it real? Is it not? All I know is, man, like, why am I looking at Atari graphics, dude? Is this meant to be representing what's happening? Is this like, here's what the lunar lander would look like if it were really there? Like, or am I meant to interpret this shiny green thing as like, this is really happening? Because, like, bro, come on, dude. Come on.
Nah, it had to be a visual representation in a Atari virtual 3D environment world. Yeah, I completely agree with that. At least what was shown, for sure. I do also think that if there was a landing on the moon and there was already potentially multiple bases or possible operations occurring on the moon, the last thing they're going to do is probably show you that on a video recording. And so, would have been nicer though if it was at least uh, like Unreal Engine graphics, in my opinion. At least put some money into it.
So am I to believe that a lot of people are thinking the landing on the moon is a myth?
I, I would say from the authentication standard of like the video, and going back to like the moon landing, right, 1964, right, landing. The
69.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think it was 69, wasn't it?
Yeah,
NTO would definitely know.
it was 69, but yeah.
Man, 4-9. I always do that in my brain, but the that possibly being a fallacy of the way that it was videotaped and shown, and did that occur? It was a space race that was going on. It was propaganda. Who knows? Does that though change the fact that there is a possibility that a lot of operations that consist and still do consist of of moon operations? I think the two don't really necessarily have to mean one or the other is wrong or right.
But I mean, you have to understand the tech back then is nowhere close it is today. I mean, look at the cell phone. When did we get that? When did we have the internet and all that here? So I mean, like a lot of you kids here weren't even born at that time here. I was. I was already. I was already what, 10 years old. So I grew up with a different kind of mindset maybe than those of you that were born after that.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
just
the
that's
president called them on a landline phone. I guess that could have been attached to a line that went to a tower that shot to a satellite, shot to the station or ship. But yeah,
on a
Well,
land on a landline. Seriously, Death.
I mean,
I love that one. That's good. I love that.
we were talking more so, or at least I was, about India. I was invading all of, lunar operations. I absolutely do believe in the moon, and I do believe that we place objects on there for reconnaissance because it's the best place that you possibly could put something. You have a freaking geostationary satellite, just like tidal locked and shit. Like, of course, it would make the perfect base, but then we have to go with the whole thing that space is real and that we can get out and all this sort of stuff. And my whole thing is like, yo, until I get the money to, high five, whatever, I'm not really too worried about it. Like, I can theorize it one way or the other, but I'm not gonna, like base my whole existence and be like, oh, it's fake and here's the proof. Like, no, I'll just get my money up and then try to fly to the moon, put my handprint on it and go back home. And, that'd be good enough for me.
I love it. Shellfish, you unmuted before. If you would want to jump in, please feel free to. And then Sasha.
You know what? I got kind of lost in the conversation. I'm enjoying it. I don't know who is next. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't worry. Go ahead, Sasha.
Yeah, Death. Earlier, you were talking about the difference between like the Homo sapien and human being attribution, and how human beings are perhaps realizing their potential of attunement, or uh, I guess what they can do with their minds and their brains and understanding of the world around them. And that might be the case here when we look at another country and their astronomy, their understanding of astronomy, and their space exploration. We might be looking at like a version of the Western world in hindsight. So that might explain some of the more rudimentary technology and at least the visuals of what they put together. It just might not be as far advanced as we've come to expect. But then again, we haven't gone back to the moon in over 60 years. So like, who are we to judge if another country is doing it actively? It just doesn't look uh, as luxurious as it should look to us, the quote unquote developed world in 2023.
Thank you very much for sharing, Sasha. And Dazzling, I thought your hand up was before. Go ahead, man. Jump
No,
in.
no, no, no. That's all good. That was awesome to go on by because I mean, when we were kind of colonizing other countries back in the day, when we were coming over here, it wasn't as glorious back then either. It was really hard to get a settlement started. So doing something like that on the moon is going to be really hard. And not as fun to begin with, but yeah, hopefully we do get there. But I was going to ask NTO because you were around when, well, I believe you said you're about 10. What was the kind of feeling back then for how you guys were looking towards the next 10 to 15 years? Did you guys think that you were going to have a civilization on the moon, from back then, within 10 to 15 years? I'm just kind of thinking about it, as you said a lot earlier on, Death, that where we see kind of all these really great things coming in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm just trying to get a perspective of what it was like back then, to what we can kind of expect from now in the same kind of time frame, if you get where I'm coming from.
Well, for me, I remember when they landed on the moon here. I mean, we were all watching it on our black and white TV, which I know is something you guys don't even know what that is yet. Just kidding. But yeah, at that time, I mean, this was absolutely huge. I mean, we're looking at colonizing the moon here, and I mean, it just brought what it really did here. It brought the country, the U.S., together. I mean, for one purpose. I mean, everybody was unified. There was no bitching and complaining what the like it is in today's world here. It was just it seemed like there was a purpose. This brought a purpose. So having said that, could it have been political or something to bring a country together? Because I know how quick a country can fall apart here if you just go look at what happened with COVID here. But having the mentality of a bunch of people working for the same same end result here. I mean, this was absolutely unbelievable at that time here, and we talked about it into our teens and so forth here. Like it was huge. It was absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that, and hopefully we can kind of bring that sentiment back when we start to head out there again and to Mars.
And even farther out. But yeah, I love it. Shellfish, you got your hand up, and then Wolf, and we probably close up a couple minutes afterwards.
NTO, I think when we started out this space, you were a little apprehensive and a little nervous about the AI revolution that we're on the precipice of. And I think it's almost imperative that we kind of integrate or not necessarily, if you want to say become one with them, but it's necessary to be able to utilize these systems to go out into space. And I hope you get as excited as I am for the tech that's coming as you were for the space travel when you were younger.
I was a kid at that time. I'm a lot older, a lot wiser now. Things don't get me excited as they did back then, except for maybe, and I'll say it, XRP. Just kidding.
Nothing wrong with that. Go ahead, Wolfman. Jump in.
Thanks, Dad. I just wanted to ask real quick if there is any of you guys that have tried the Space Simulator game that is in Steam, where you can fly the Apollo 8 rocket and everything. Is there any of you guys that have tried that before?
What is that? You said a space simulator?
Yeah, it's a space simulator where you can ride with the rocket from 68, I think, or 69.
No, I haven't seen that. Sounds cool though.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it.
Let us know if it's more graphically realizing than the Indian space landing. Dazzling though, man. You got your hand up, and Sasha.
Yeah, just a quick one because I know you're going to close. FinTech threw me some resources to a some sort of a space program that you can do over at Cape Canaveral there, and yeah, it looks really cool. I don't know how kind of in depth it goes into kind of maybe getting you out there. Maybe it's more of kind of a fun thing to do for people that are interested in that kind of stuff, but. Yeah, because I was really interested to maybe chuck on a suit and jump in the pool and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, to hear that there's that kind of simulator as well, that'd be really cool to play around with as well.
Sasha, go ahead, man, and then Meeps.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this space so much. I got to bounce, but thanks as always, Death, for hosting, and Shellfish and other contributors. Always a great time. I think it was NFO that was discussing what it was like to be part of like that cohesiveness of community and I guess a country back when the moon landing took place in America. And I think the precursors to all of that are very important to highlight as well. I think 62 was the JFK assassination. You had the civil rights movements that took place in the 60s. You had 20 years removed from World War II. So you had a lot of buildup to, the yearning for society to feel united in a moment. And this could go 100 different ways. You can call it, political play, like somebody mentioned earlier, to build a space program to accelerate the need for community. Also, the hippie movement is not to be ignored as well. In the 60s, there was a sense of community that was developing around like very organic boots on the ground type vibes and smoking pot, of course. But I don't think we're too far removed from that same sort of yearning where there are people who are interested in communicating on community levels once again and bypassing all of this segregation and the separation, so to speak, of what's taken place in the last 40 years, whether it be because of media or world events. It's sort of isolated us, and rooms like this are an example of all that coming back and us working together to who knows what we're getting accomplished when we're having some of these spaces. So yeah, I just always appreciate these types of talks, man, and gets the brain going.
Well, I always appreciate you coming, Sasha, man, and the word you share, the information, and I'm always glad when you're here. So I appreciate it, man. All right, me, got you back up. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. Just want to kind of speak on the perspective of space from back in the day versus now, and why I might be qualified to have a perspective on this is even though I'm only like let's say within my 40s, so I did not experience the space race back in the day, but what I have experienced is the media that surrounded it. I've in particular consumed a lot of um, radio, let's say from the 30s to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And in particular, the radio that we had back in the day, like there's a show, X minus one. You can look this up on YouTube. They also have it on archive.org. But basically, on X minus one, like it was routine for them to project that by the 80s we are routinely just going to be making trips to Mars, to Jupiter. We were going to be flying around in rockets. We were going to have all these different things. And in my perception, one of the things that happened is like after we got to the moon and we more or less had our we proved our dominance or superiority over that domain, a lot of the interest within space waned because we were really like we were seriously these pioneers out here, but on the same hand a lot of it was for military and intelligence purposes. And once those really got cemented, we were kind of on to the next thing. Even though in the public perception, we still in the 70s were very much so rocking and rolling with the space program. And one of the big slowdowns that we had, at least in America, was Challenger, because that happened in 86. We didn't fly again until 89. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying all that to say that if you look into the scientific fiction that they had back in the day, kind of predicting where they would be 20 years in the future, 30 years, 40 years, they really saw themselves doing stuff that we still today see as like, futuristic and kind of out there. So maybe, I don't know, their eyes were a little bigger than their stomachs or a little bigger than the actual appetite, right, for like space travel and deep space flight and all this. But just in that respect, I do think this kind of relates to the concept of the stalled century, where it's like we're supposed to be 50 years ahead, maybe even 100 years ahead, but a lot of things are still kind of antiquated in a way of saying, or they're not as far developed along as they should be. And I would absolutely regard aviation and space travel within that domain because ultimately the goal of space was to drive down the cost of putting payloads into orbit. And what's happened? The cost is going up, man. Even beyond inflation, it's going up. So just a little bit of a rant from me as well. We absolutely need the AI. Like I guarantee you, if we get into deep space, you are not going to be doing fly by water. Okay, you're not going to be just like manually controlling the gears and levers on the ship to go where you need to go is going to be some form of something that's going to abstract your instructions to the ship so that you get to where you get safely and everything is everything. But yeah, man, definitely listen to the fiction of the past because there's a lot of ideas there that are still very valid and still very fertile as well, and we still need to give birth to a lot of these things. We need to put them in flight and then have other people, be the benefactors of all these sort of great ideas that people have had. So, yeah,
Maybe we just ran out of German scientists in the 80s.
got them.
That was an excellent ending off there, man. I think that and NTO I also in a less comical mindset. I think greed definitely got involved, and that was somewhat played a large role in this unfortunate. You could almost consider it stopgate of a lot of this progression technology. And but just yeah, I completely agree with you, Mace. I think it was a great way to end off and a great example of how a smart tooling set is not only like somewhat of a want in a lot of the things that we have existing today to make things way more efficient, but it's a need and a necessity in a situation like that. You're not having space travel without having some smart tooling set to be able to say, if I'm going from Alpha Centauri A to Earth, do this calculation and triangulate us, right? I can't do this analog with levers and gears. Yeah, like, I couldn't even imagine it. Shellfish, though, you put your hand up. Go ahead real quick, and then I'm going to close up.
I was just gonna say something about. Oh God, I totally lost it. Thank you for the space, and it's 5 o'clock, so ring the bell. Love it. Love you guys. Great day.
Awesome. Yeah, Russ, it was an excellent conversation. NTO, I hope you're in the space next time as well. I love it because you're a little bit of a skeptic about the tooling set, and so any questions you have, bring them. We'll talk about it. Meefs, man, I'm glad that you really came to the space, and everyone else who came and spoke today. You guys like dazzling Shellfish Wolf. You guys are the regulars, So, and Sasha and a couple others. But I love everyone. I really love you guys, and these spaces wouldn't be what they are if it wasn't for you guys coming in here speaking and listening every single day, and for all those who listen to the information in the future. I mean, really, I think these audio files are not only super important today, but 100 200 years from now, 500 years from now, if the language is still able to be understood, I couldn't imagine how awesome it would be able to just look back and say, wow, look at the sociological means of the society and the technology at the time and the way they were interacting. But on that note, have a great rest of the night. We'll be back Monday, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Night, everybody.